Chosen ones, you're not lost, you're in dark activation mode. There's a moment in every chosen one's life when everything stops making sense. The plans fall apart. The people leave. The rhythm of life, once predictable and linear, becomes jagged and surreal. You look around and nothing feels familiar anymore. The things that used to bring you joy feel empty, and the dreams you once chased now seem irrelevant or out of reach. You think, what happened to me? You ask, why does it feel like I've lost myself? And this is where the illusion begins to dissolve, because what you call being lost is actually something far more sacred. You're not lost. You're in dark activation mode. And once you understand what that really means, your entire perception of your life will shift. You see, the world trains us to think that progress should always be visible, that transformation should feel good, that healing should look like peace and clarity. But for the chosen ones, the path is different. We weren't built for surface evolution, we were built for soul transfiguration, and that kind of change doesn't start in the light. It starts in the void, in the silence, in the sacred disorientation where your old self begins to fall apart and your true self begins to emerge, not with fireworks, but with emptiness. That emptiness you feel, that numbness, that confusion, that sense of floating between worlds, that's the womb of your next self. That's the cocoon where your wings are growing, even if all you see is darkness.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Dark activation mode is not a punishment. It's a recalibration. It's your soul unplugging you from everything that once defined you so that you can remember what you really are. And the reason it feels so terrifying is because no one told you this part was sacred. No one told you that before you rise, you must descend. That before you embody your light, you must be stripped of everything that isn't truly yours. And so here you are in the in-between, not who you were, not yet who you're becoming, suspended, hollow. But what if that hollow space isn't failure? What if it's sacred preparation? Let me tell you something most people will never understand. Chosen ones aren't made in the spotlight. They're made in the shadows, in the nights where you cry and no one hears you, in the moments where you break and no one comes to save you, in the silence where you scream and only your soul echoes back. That's where your power is forged. That's where your senses awaken. That's where your true frequency begins to form, not to entertain, not to impress, but to because you weren't chosen to be popular, you were chosen to carry codes. Codes that can't be learned, codes that must be unlocked through loss, through silence, through surrender. The reason your life feels like it's been dismantled is because it has, but not by accident, by design, by a part of you that's operating beyond your conscious mind. You think you're stuck, but you're actually being rewired. The isolation, that's your soul removing noise. The confusion, that's your soul scrambling the old programs. The stillness, that's your soul downloading something that the busy version of you could never receive. Dark activation mode is the phase where your ego thinks you're dying, but your soul knows you're finally being born. And yes, it's lonely, yes, it's uncomfortable, yes, it feels like you've been forgotten, but what if I told you that you're not being ignored, you're being watched? by your higher self, by your guides, by the unseen realms that have been with you since the beginning. They're not intervening yet, because this part of your journey is about self-remembering. It's about proving to yourself that you can walk through the dark and not forget the light you carry. It's about discovering that your power doesn't come from being seen, it comes from being self-sourced. But let me ask you something that only your soul can answer. What if the darkness you're in is not a detour, but a temple? What if this quiet void you're resisting is the exact environment your soul chose to activate your next evolution? What if the reason nothing external is working is because you've outgrown every external solution? There's a reason you feel like you don't fit into the world anymore. It's because you're not supposed to. You are being prepared to reshape the world, but before you can do that, you must first be stripped of everything the world taught you to be. That's what this phase is for. It's not the end of your path. It's the sacred dismantling of everything false. It's the divine interruption that says, we're not going forward with the old identity. We're building something new. And here's the wildest part. The longer you resist it, the longer it lasts. But the moment you surrender to it, the moment you stop trying to fix it and start listening to it, the moment you stop saying, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what is this activating in me, that's when the energy shifts. That's when the darkness ends. But because you stop fearing it, you step into co-creation with it. You start to realize, wait, this isn't the absence of light, this is the incubation of light. So don't rush this phase. Don't try to escape it. Don't numb it or bypass it with fake positivity. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Let it show you who you really are when there's nothing left to prove. Because when the light returns, and it will, you won't just be healed. You'll be reborn, with eyes that see deeper, with a voice that speaks truer, with a presence that holds weight. The kind of weight that only comes from walking through the dark and choosing to remember who you are anyway. You're not lost, you're activating. You're not behind, you're being prepared. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. The sacred pause. Why the void you're in is not a delay, but a divine reset. There's something deeply uncomfortable about stillness, especially for the chosen ones. We were born with fire in our bones, vision in our hearts, and an aching sense that we are meant to do something extraordinary. So when life slows to a halt, when everything we try seems to fall flat, when momentum disappears and the silence stretches on longer than we can explain, we panic. We think we've failed. We think we've missed our calling. We think we've disappointed the universe. But let me tell you a truth that your soul has always known, but your mind forgot. The void you're in is not a delay. It's a divine reset. It's not a punishment. It's a recalibration. It's sacred space being carved out inside you so that when your light returns, it has room to expand. We live in a world that worships speed. We're told to keep moving, keep building, keep pushing forward, even when we're broken, especially when we're broken. But spiritual evolution doesn't follow linear time. It doesn't obey the logic of hustle culture. It obeys soul time. And in soul time, stillness is not wasted, it's essential. It's the space where your soul does the kind of work your conscious mind will never fully understand. And if you're in that space right now, if you're in the in-between, if you're watching your life feel like it's been paused, please hear this: you are not falling behind. You are being restructured at a level so deep, so precise, so intelligent, that it can only happen when everything else stops. The sacred pause is one of the most misunderstood parts of the chosen one's journey, because there's no ceremony, no applause, no evidence that anything is happening. From the outside, it just looks like you're stuck, unmotivated, uninspired, maybe even depressed. But on the inside, your nervous system is being reset, your energetic field is being cleared, your intuition is being sharpened, your soul is whispering, "Sit down, stop running, let me show you who you really are." And that takes time, that takes space, that takes silence. Have you ever considered that the very thing you're calling stagnation is actually a cocoon? That your soul has wrapped you in divine stillness, not because you're being punished, but because you're being protected. Protected from rushing into something that isn't aligned. Protected from repeating old cycles. Protected from becoming successful at something that would have killed your spirit. This pause, it's not a void, it's a womb. And inside that womb, something ancient and powerful is forming. A new version of you. A version that isn't built on trauma response, ego-driven goals, or external validation. A version that moves from alignment, not desperation. But here's the challenge: the sacred pause feels uncomfortable because it strips you of identity. It removes the distractions that made you feel in control. It erases the metrics you use to measure your worth. And that's the point, because your power isn't found in what you do, it's found in who you are when there's nothing left to do, when there's nothing to prove, when there's no one watching. That's when you meet the real you, the unfiltered you, the eternal you. And from that version of you, everything you build will be unstoppable. Not because it's flashy, but because it's true. Let me ask you something that might change your relationship with this moment forever. What if the reason everything slowed down is because your soul didn't want you to miss the most important download of your life? What if the silence you're resisting holds your next instruction? What if the pause is the path? You see, the sacred pause isn't passive, it's deeply active, just not in the way the world defines activity. It's the space where your soul initiates you into a new frequency, where your old software is uninstalled and your new coding begins to run. And during that process, you may feel tired, you may feel lost, you may feel disconnected from your purpose, your passion, even your faith. But that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're leveling up. And just like a caterpillar doesn't understand what's happening inside the cocoon, you're not meant to understand every detail of your transformation. You're just meant to trust it. Because when the pause ends, and it will, you won't emerge as the same person. You'll be clearer, lighter, sharper, more aligned. You'll speak with more precision. You'll move with more grace. You'll attract with more ease. Why? Because you'll no longer be acting from the fractured self who is trying to survive. You'll be moving from the integrated self, who remembers why they came. So let go of the pressure to figure it all out. Let go of the lie that you're behind. Let go of the urge to rush through the mystery and instead surrender. Surrender to the stillness. Surrender to the not knowing. Surrender to the sacred intelligence that's been guiding you this entire time. Because this isn't the end of the story, it's the part where the hero disappears for a while, only to return with power they didn't know they had. You're not in limbo, you're in preparation. You're not stuck, you're in stillness. You're not being ignored, you're being refined. This is the sacred pause. And it's not a break from your life, it's the beating heart of your awakening. Soul recalibration, how your identity is being rewritten from the inside out. There's something sacred happening beneath the surface of your stillness, something your eyes can't see but your spirit is starting to feel. It's not just that your life is changing, it's that you are. In ways that defy logic, in patterns that seem invisible to everyone else, you are being rewritten. Your identity is being recalibrated from the inside out, and that's why so much of what once defined you is dissolving. It feels like loss, but it's not destruction, it's refinement. You're not becoming someone new, you're returning to someone ancient, someone true, someone who was buried beneath layers of programming, pain and performance. And now the layers are falling away, the masks are burning, the illusions are breaking, and what's left is raw, honest and real. You see, the reason you felt so disoriented lately isn't because you're broken, it's because the version of you that was built in survival mode is no longer compatible with the energy of where you're going. The stories you told yourself to stay safe, the roles you played to stay accepted, the habits you developed to stay in control, none of that fits anymore. And that's why it feels like the ground is shifting beneath your feet, because it is. You're standing on the threshold of a new frequency, and your soul is doing the heavy lifting to align your identity with your essence. Not so you can perform a new character, but so you can embody your truth. This recalibration is not gentle, it's not polite, it doesn't ask for your permission. It moves through your life like a sacred storm, destroying what's false and resurrecting what's real. And if you're in it right now, if you're watching relationships fall apart, if your career feels meaningless, if your passions feel foreign, if your body is going through strange changes, know this: you're not unraveling, you're realigning. All of this is happening for you, not to you. Your soul is reclaiming its throne, and it will not coexist with anything that insults its truth. But here's the part no one talks about. This process is lonely. Not because you're truly alone, but because very few people are willing to go this deep. Most people don't want to question their identity because their identity is a safety net. But you're different. You didn't come here to play it safe. You came here to wake up. You came here to shed false skins, to burn old blueprints, to disrupt the matrix with a frequency of your remembrance. And for that to happen, your identity must be built on something real. Something eternal, something the world didn't give you, so the world can't take it away. So, let me ask you a question that your ego might resist, but your soul has been waiting for. Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when there's no one to impress, no one to validate you, no one to clap for you or criticize you? Who are you when the roles, the titles, the expectations fall away and only your breath remains? That's the version of you that's being called forward. That's the version of you that's being coded into your nervous system, not as an idea, but as a living, breathing reality. And yes, it's disorienting to not know who you are anymore. Yes, it's terrifying to feel like a stranger to yourself, but that's only because the false self is dying. The version of you that was shaped by trauma, by conditioning, by fear, that version is dissolving, and it's okay to grieve it. It's okay to feel the sadness, the confusion, the emptiness. But don't mistake that death for failure. It's actually your graduation. You're shedding the illusion of who you thought you had to be and stepping into the embodiment of who you already are. This is what spiritual evolution really looks like. Not floating above life, but rooting into it with your full truth. Not bypassing your humanity, but integrating your divinity through your humanity. You're not here to play a role. You're here to be a mirror, a walking reminder that authenticity is power, that presence is magnetic, that truth is a frequency that transforms everything it touches. And that's why your soul is being so meticulous in this recalibration, because when you emerge from this, you won't just be a new version of yourself, you'll be a clear channel for what wants to move through you. You'll speak differently, not to impress, but to transmit. You'll walk differently, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You'll love differently, not from fear of abandonment, but from a place of overflow, because you'll no longer be operating from the identity that needed to earn worth. You'll be moving from the truth that you are worth. Not someday, not when you've healed more, right now, as you are. So don't rush this. Don't try to define yourself too quickly. Let the old dissolve. Let the new emerge on its own terms. Trust the wisdom of your soul to reveal, in divine timing, the version of you that this next chapter requires, because it's coming. You can feel it. That quiet, steady power, that deep, unshakable knowing, that sense that no matter what falls away, you remain. And not just remain, you rise. You're not who you were, and that's not a loss. It's your liberation. Embodied ascension, how to live as the activated version of you in a world that still sleeps. Now that you've remembered who you are beneath the noise, now that you've surrendered to the dark activation, walked through the sacred pause, and allowed your soul to rewrite your identity from the inside out, there's only one thing left: embodiment. Not talking about it, not posting about it, living it. In a world that still sleeps, in a system that still rewards masks, in spaces where truth is still mistaken for rebellion, you now carry a frequency that can't be explained, it must be felt. And this is where the real work begins, because ascension is not about escaping the human experience, it's about infusing the human experience with your divinity. It's about walking into the grocery store, your job, your relationships, your silence, and radiating the truth of your activated essence without ever needing to announce it. You don't need to convince anyone of who you are anymore. You don't need to prove your light or explain your journey. You are the evidence. Your presence becomes the transmission. Your stillness becomes the teaching. Your choices, how you speak, how you listen, how you hold your boundaries, how you love. These become your sacred technologies. Embodied ascension means you've stopped waiting for a better world and started becoming the soul who can carry the frequency of that world now. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Yes, you'll see things others don't. You'll feel truths others aren't ready for. But you're not here to fit in. You're here to anchor in. So how do you live as that version of you? You simplify, you slow down, you choose truth over comfort, you choose alignment over approval. You learn to listen to your body, not just as a vessel, but as a sacred compass that knows when something is off, when something is true, when something is calling. You tune into your intuition, not as a whisper you occasionally honor, but as your primary navigation system. You start creating from your overflow instead of your wounds. You stop chasing timelines and you start trusting timing. You stop performing and you start embodying. And in this phase, you start to notice something else. Your energy speaks louder than your words. People start reacting to you differently, not because you changed your appearance, but because you changed your vibration. Your very presence begins to trigger, inspire, activate, or repel. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're finally being honest. And honesty is rare, it's disruptive, it's magnetic. When you live in full alignment, you become a mirror, and not everyone is ready to meet their reflection, but some are, and they'll find you. They'll recognize you, not by your words, but by your frequency, because only the awakened can feel the awakened, and your life will begin to orbit around that resonance. But let's be clear, embodied ascension doesn't mean you never struggle. It doesn't mean you float above pain. It means you feel it all, but you no longer become it. You experience emotions without being consumed by them. You face challenges without collapsing into them. You hold space for others without abandoning yourself. You evolve without needing chaos to force it. You become both the storm and the calm within it. You become whole. So let me ask you the final question. What version of you are you ready to stop performing? And what version of you are you finally ready to inhabit? Not someday, not when it's safe, but now. Because now is the only sacred moment you have. And this world, as loud and chaotic as it may be, is desperately waiting for souls like you to quietly, powerfully become who they really are. You were never lost, you were never broken, you were never behind. You were being activated in silence, and now it's time, not to escape, but to embody, not to wait, but to live, not to seek the light, but to be it, right here, in this moment, in this world, fully, unapologetically, and eternally you.